Holy hell, boys, my voice is not good. I apologize, I've been quite unwell this week, but I had to get a video out come that live stream. I'm going to go over the basics, I'm going to go over the cliff notes essentially from the live stream we've just had. The full thing is an hour and 20. If you have time, I'd highly recommend watching it. It is just packed with information. I cannot cover it all, but let's give you the high level details and just jump straight in. First up, we got a really nice voiced cutscene. When I saw this, I was kind of hoping we'd get more, but I think this might just be for the live stream and for the game's release. I don't think you'll see cutscenes in the game, but it was really good. Check it out. We got a lot of other rehashed info in this. If you're not up to date with the Path of Exile news, it's definitely worth watching. If you are, there was a lot of repeated information about like single-use support gems and stuff like that. If you're subbed to my channel, you would have already seen a lot of that information or heard it. If you're not, hey, consider subscribing. I post a lot of Path of Exile 2 content, and I'm always trying to break things down, and we'll do even more post-release. But some of the new information was the charms. We'd heard about a trinket system replacing flasks. You will have a health and mana flask, and those will be deeper, so you'll get more uses out of those. And then you will also add charms to your belt. So your belt will determine how many charms you can have. It looked like it was up to a max of 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's a bit different. And interestingly, these charms are auto-use. So in this gameplay demo, we saw a thawing charm. When you get frozen, it automatically unfreezes you and makes you immune to freeze for 3 seconds. But it needs to be recharged like a flask by killing monsters. I was quite surprised to see these be automatic. I'm definitely not upset at the decision, but it is a very passive style of gameplay that's a little bit different for grinding gear games. But I think with so many other systems at play, they were fine with this one being a little easier on the eyes. Now, moving over to this was kind of expected, but we did get confirmation on the classes available in early access. No druid, unfortunately, which I was quite surprised to see given we've had a demo for it. But we are getting the monk, the warrior, the ranger, the mercenary, the witch, and the sorceress. And with each of those, we finally got some ascendancy information. So the monk will have the invoker and the acolyte of Cheula. The warrior will have the warbringer and the titan. The ranger, the deadeye and the pathfinder. The mercenary will have the witch hunter and the gemling legionnaire, which has the option to give you 3 more skill slots. That's fucking insane. The witch will have the infernalist and the blood mage, and the sorceress, the stormweaver, and the chronomancer, which will have the ability to stop time briefly. So a lot of really interesting information. I will definitely be covering those more in a video next week or the week after. Definitely worth looking at if you're really interested in those ascendancies. Again, those are your specializations. So as a reminder for those that don't know, any character can use any item, any skill in this game, assuming they have the attributes. The ascendancies, however, are tied to your choice. We also finally got information on how you'll get those ascendancies through trials. One of them is essentially Ultimatum Plus, and the other is Sanctum Plus. They function very similar to the PoE1 counterparts. Also mentioned during the live stream is that you don't need to complete the separate trials. You can stick to a single trial, which I'm going to guess will have different difficulty levels if you want to get all of your ascendancy points. If you're not familiar, Sanctum is a system that gives you honor, and each time you're hit during the run, you lose it. Now in both of these systems, you're essentially moving between rooms, killing monsters, but with these various debuffs kind of following you behind and extra gameplay things you need to be mindful of. Obviously in general, you don't want to get hit, but obviously in this trial, getting hit has that extra detriment. And in terms of the other trial, the ultimatum style encounter, each room you get new rewards and you pick a certain debuff. So that might be something like putting turrets in the room, they're going to shoot in your direction, giving monsters specific buffs, or putting like a cloud that's going to follow you around the arena and hurt you if it touches you. So it's just adding more chaos to the arena itself, more hazards essentially that you have to dodge. Now, I'll talk about Endgame shortly, but these trials can also be used for Endgame activities, and there will be an additional trial at the end of Early Access, or sometime during it. We also again saw optional bosses, and optional bosses giving you permanent stat increases. These bosses will actually show up on the overworld map, so you don't have to worry about missing one. I didn't know this, I'm not sure if that was information known before, but you can check which of those bosses are coming up, what they give you, or some you may have missed all on the map, and I think that's a really good quality of life, just to make sure you don't have to worry about missing those. Because they can give you pretty good buffs like increased resistances or increased spirit. Now we know there are going to be about 50 bosses overall with 400 monster types during early access, and that will double in the period over to full release. And in relation to the campaign, we are going to have only 3 acts, but you're going to be running it twice on 2 different difficulty levels. And that's to bridge that gap where those missing 3 acts are. So acts 4, 5, and 6 aren't in the game. Instead, you'll replay acts 1, 2, and 3 on that higher difficulty, and then that will prepare you for the end game. So hell, let's jump straight on into it. The endgame looks really, really good. The Atlas has returned, but it functions very differently. It almost functions a little bit like Delve. So instead of having a static map that you run over and over, you follow an infinitely sprawling landscape and you choose nodes to go to. Now, not every one of these nodes is going to have a boss. Sometimes you'll just be clearing monsters, or you'll be focusing on doing the different kind of endgame activities. So let's talk about what those are. Most of these, in fact, all of these are returning. They were all in PoE 1, but they are functioning somewhat differently in Path of Exile 2. So in this, we have activities like Breach, which spawns monsters from another realm when you activate the clasped hands. We have Ritual, which is a small area fight around a totem. As you kill monsters there, it soaks them up, and then when you activate it, it resummons them. Killing them then gives you points that you spend to buy certain items from the altar. We have Delirium returning, which spawns a ton of monsters as you traverse the map. And Expedition, which are static locations you set up explosives in that spawn monsters with relative power to the explosives you planted, letting you tailor that experience more closely to your own interests. And these systems have brought over other things from Path of Exile 1. Delirium, for example, has the anointing system from Blight that we saw in Path of Exile 1. Rip to Blight, very sad to see that go. I'm going to guess it probably won't return. So a lot of these systems will lead you to additional crafts. So you're going to be wanting to kind of dabble in each or really heavily specialize in one and then buy the things you need for the others. Again, currency exchange is returning here. So all the things you get from Delirium, for example, you'll be able to sell to somebody else doing Ritual or Breach. And then that way you can do kind of both styles of content, or you can just go jack of all trades and do them all yourself. What I love about this system is there is a ton of player choice. It is really subjective. It is really up to you what you want to engage in. And that is just the insane beauty of Path of Exile 2's endgame. Now, each of these activities also have their own pinnacle boss, and the Atlas itself also has a pinnacle boss. They didn't show off all of these. We did see the one from Breach, so again, I'll play some of that on screen and you can check out the actual stream for the rest. They were very tight-lipped on the pinnacle boss for the actual Atlas itself. They kind of showed off that you can eventually find a fortress that is going to have this boss in it. You then need to kill a couple of lieutenants, and if you lose that fight, that then disappears and you have to find it elsewhere. That's going to be really interesting, but until we actually get our hands on it, I don't think we're going to get more details, but I cannot wait. And finally, we got some of this earlier in the week. The pricing has been announced. So we did get a tweet earlier, well, what is it now, an X? What do you call it? A tweet, whatever. We got a tweet from Grinding Gear Games saying that the cost is going to be $30 US for a key. That also comes with 300 of their in-game points. Now, if you're going with that option, I would probably recommend holding on to those points. Stash tabs are really important in Path of Exile's endgame to help you keep track of all of the various currencies, all of the maps, and other bits and pieces that are dropping for the various endgame systems. Often they will have a specific like currency tab or a map tab or a specific tab made for a specific currency or a specific game type, like Breach might have its own currency or its own tab rather. I would highly recommend holding on to those points. Don't just buy a cosmetic right away, unless you're more than happy to spend money on those later. But I always tell people getting into Path of Exile for the first time, stash tabs are a must once you hit in-game, so hang on to those points. They often run stash tab sales. Hopefully they do the same in Path of Exile 2. So if you see one of those, pick up some tabs would be my recommendation with those points. Otherwise, if you've spent over $480 US on the previous game, Path of Exile, you will be getting a key for free. Well done on that, but let's be honest, if you spent that in the past, I'm sure you're going to be buying a supporter pack. And finally, they showed off the cosmetics that are in those supporter packs. I'll just let play in the background now while I give you my final thoughts. So look, my thoughts on this stream, absolutely fucking epic, to be honest. I thought I was going to be able to cover the whole thing in a video today, despite being sick. But as soon as I started watching it, I was like, oh shit, there's no way in hell I'm doing that. So here are the basics. Those are the basics. I'll then release some videos on the endgame in a bit more detail, and probably on the ascendancies in more details as well. Apologies, those will have to wait till I'm doing better. So fingers crossed on that one. If you've made it to the end of this, thank you very much for putting up with my voice. Now my plans for release is I will be streaming day one. I don't know yet if I'm going to stream bang on 3 AM when it releases my time, because that's a little bit early and I'll be working the day before, or the day before. Or if I'll just jump on at a normal time and then stream for a good 12 plus hours after that. So stay tuned to my videos, I'll let you know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Throw a like on the video if you enjoyed it, sub if you want to see more, but you being here, that's what really matters to me. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 PM Australian Western Standard Time. Come hang out anytime. Have a good one. Cheers.